What if the dark shape you saw in the corner of your room wasn't just a trick of the light? What if the shadow that moved across your wall moved on its own? And what if the feeling that someone was watching you in the middle of the night wasn't just your imagination? Thousands of people across the world have described the same chilling experience. They wake up suddenly in the middle of the night. Their room is silent. The air feels strangely heavy. They try to move, but their body refuses to respond. And standing somewhere in the darkness is a figure. Not a ghost, not a person, just a human-shaped silhouette made entirely of shadow, watching, silent, waiting. These encounters are known as shadow people sightings, and the unsettling part is how similar the stories are, even from people who have never met. Most shadow sightings begin the same way. It's late at night. Your room is dark, except for a faint glow from the streetlights outside or a sliver of moonlight coming through the window. You wake up suddenly. No noise, no clear reason, just a sudden awareness that something feels wrong. At first, everything appears normal. Your door, your furniture, your ceiling. But then your eyes adjust to the darkness, and you notice something standing near the wall. A shape. At first your brain tries to explain it away. A chair, a coat hanging on a hook, a pile of clothes. But then it shifts slightly, just enough to make your heart jump, because whatever it is, it just moved. People who report seeing shadow figures describe them in almost identical ways. The figure is darker than the surrounding darkness. Not gray, not transparent, but a solid silhouette, like someone cut a human shape out of the darkness itself and placed it in the room. No visible face, no eyes, no mouth. Just a black outline shaped like a person, standing perfectly still, watching. In some cases, the figure appears extremely tall, too tall for the room, its head nearly touching the ceiling, its arms hanging longer than normal. Other times, the shape is smaller, child-sized, peeking from the hallway, leaning around the corner of a doorway, just enough of the figure visible to make you realize something is there. And then there is one version of the shadow figure that appears in stories more often than any other. Witnesses call it the Hat Man. This figure looks like a tall man wearing a wide-brimmed hat. The shape of the hat is unmistakable. Some people describe it as a fedora. Others say it looks like an old Victorian top hat. But the silhouette is always clear. A tall figure, a long coat, a hat casting an even deeper shadow over where the face should be. The Hat Man rarely moves. He simply stands there, watching, sometimes for minutes at a time, until suddenly he disappears. One of the most disturbing parts of shadow sightings is how often they happen during something called sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis occurs when the brain wakes up before the body does. During REM sleep, the brain temporarily disables muscle movement to prevent people from acting out their dreams. But sometimes the mind wakes up while the body remains locked in that state. The result is terrifying. You are conscious. You can see your room. You can hear sounds, but you cannot move. Not even a finger. Not even your voice. Your body feels heavy. Your chest tight. Your breathing shallow. And in that moment of helplessness, the brain sometimes creates hallucinations. These hallucinations often take the form of human figures, dark figures, standing near the bed, in the corner of the room, or slowly moving toward you. The brain is trying to interpret dream imagery while your eyes are open. And because the human brain is wired to recognize faces and human shapes instantly, the hallucination often becomes a person. But something about it feels wrong. The proportions are slightly off. The movements are unnatural. The darkness around it feels deeper than the rest of the room. People experiencing sleep paralysis often describe the same emotions: intense fear, a feeling of being watched, sometimes the sensation that something is pressing down on their chest. Others report hearing whispers, footsteps, breathing, even though no one else is in the room. For someone experiencing this for the first time, the encounter can feel absolutely real. Imagine waking up at 3 a.m., your room is silent, your body refuses to move, and standing near your door is a shadow shaped like a person, watching you, not speaking, not moving, just standing there, and you cannot escape. You cannot scream. You cannot even close your eyes. Eventually, the paralysis ends. Your body unlocks. The shadow disappears, and the room returns to normal. But the memory remains vivid, too vivid to dismiss easily. What makes the phenomenon even more fascinating is that similar stories exist across cultures and centuries. In medieval Europe, people believed a demon known as the Night Hag sat on their chest while they slept. In Japan, the experience is called kanashibari, which translates to bound by metal, describing the feeling of being frozen in place. In parts of the Middle East, the experience is sometimes attributed to supernatural beings known as Jinn. Across cultures that developed independently of each other, people described the same thing: waking up unable to move, feeling a presence, seeing a shadowy figure in the room. Modern science explains these encounters through sleep paralysis and hallucinations, but the emotional impact remains powerful, because even when you understand the science, the experience still feels real. Your brain cannot easily forget the moment when something stood in your room, watching you. Some reports go beyond sleep paralysis. Many people claim to see shadow figures while fully awake. They describe catching glimpses of movement in their peripheral vision: a tall figure passing through a hallway, a shape darting across a wall. When they turn to look directly, nothing is there, just empty space. This can happen because human peripheral vision is extremely sensitive to movement, but it lacks detail. When something moves at the edge of our sight, the brain quickly guesses what it might be. Sometimes shadows, shifting light, or moving objects can appear briefly like human figures, especially in low lighting. By the time we turn our heads to look directly, the brain corrects the image, but the momentary shape leaves an impression. Despite scientific explanations, shadow people remain one of the most persistent modern paranormal legends. Online forums are filled with thousands of similar stories, people describing the same experiences, the same silhouettes, the same feelings of dread. Many claim they have seen shadow figures multiple times throughout their lives. Some say the figures only appear during stressful periods. Others claim the shadows seem curious rather than threatening, just observing. Paranormal researchers sometimes propose alternative explanations. They suggest shadow figures might be entities existing in another dimension, or spirits that appear as shadows rather than full apparitions. There is no scientific evidence supporting these ideas, but the consistency of the stories keeps the mystery alive. What makes shadow sightings so unsettling is where they happen. Not in abandoned houses, not in haunted forests, but in bedrooms, living rooms, Hallways, the most ordinary places in everyday life, the places where we expect to feel safest. When something strange appears there, it disrupts our sense of security. It makes us question what we saw, what we felt, what might still be standing in the dark when the lights go off. Imagine tonight, you wake up suddenly. The room is quiet. Your clock reads 3:14 a.m. Moonlight spills through the window. Everything seems normal, until you notice a shape standing in the corner, tall, motionless, darker than the darkness around it. You blink, it's still there. Your heart begins to race. You try to move, but your body feels heavy, frozen. The shadow tilts its head slightly, as if it knows you're awake, as if it's been waiting for you to notice. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it's gone. The corner of the room is empty. Your body unlocks. You sit up, breathing heavily. The room looks exactly the same as it did before, but something about it feels different, because now you know what you saw, or at least you think you do, and that raises the question that keeps the shadow people mystery alive. If the brain can create such vivid figures during sleep paralysis, why do so many people describe seeing the same shapes, the same tall silhouettes, the same figure wearing a hat, the same silent presence standing in the room? Maybe it's coincidence. Maybe our brains are all just wired to imagine similar shapes in darkness, or maybe, just maybe, something else is standing in those shadows, waiting for us to wake up, because when the lights go out and the world falls silent, the darkness around us might not be as empty as we think. If this story gave you chills, hit the like button. Subscribe for more dark mysteries, psychological horror, and unexplained phenomena. And comment below, do you think shadow people are just hallucinations during sleep paralysis? Or could something else be watching us when we wake up in the middle of the night? I'll see you in the next one.